approach this art cart, you'll notice that the color that each glaze will fire to is on that little picture there with the name of the glaze. Notice how sometimes the glaze doesn't match up with what it's going to look like when it's done. So for example, whoa, where are you? See Miss Green? It looks gray, but this will actually fire to this really pretty like light green color. So don't pay so much attention to what it looks like inside the bottle, but make sure that you're looking and choosing your glaze according to the picture. Larkspur is purple, kind of like a dark purple, and then royal purple is a little bit more of a purpley pink color. When you're coming to get the first glaze, you're only taking one glaze at a time. You are going to find the kind of glaze that you want to use. You're going to make sure that it is the color that you know that you want to use. Then I'm going to just grab the first glaze in that category. Boys and girls, check the label to make sure the label matches the color of the glaze that you want to use. When you pick up your glaze from the tray, do not pick it up from the lid. Why not, Mrs. Snyder? Because a person, a not very great person, before you might not have screwed the lid on tightly, and inside this is glaze that is very expensive. We want to make sure that we don't have any spills or accidents. So when you pick up the glaze, do not pick it up from the lid, pick it up from the front or the sides of the bottle. Take your glaze to your table and we'll talk about what you'll do with it there. Okay, have my little glaze station set up, my placemat, water, my glaze, my vessel, a paper towel. So get some paper towels, and then decide on your brushes. This is small, medium, large. Maybe you want all three. Maybe you just choose two. So you need some brushes of different sizes. So boys and girls, when we start glazing, we're actually going to be glazing from the bottom of our vessel towards the top, but we are not glazing the bottom. The reason why is because remember that the glaze is like glass, and so if there's molten hot glass here, it gets stuck to the shelf below it. So we are not glazing the bottom of our vessels. It's very, very important. So to start at the bottom, the best way to do it is to turn it upside down, because now I can access this first row to be able to glaze it. So I'm going to choose a brush that would fit that area just to make sure. Oh, that one looks like the right one. Every time when I have my glaze, the first time I open it, I need to mix it, but I don't want to get the glaze all the way up my brush because that just wastes the glaze, plus it's going to get messy. So I'm just mixing it. Then I want to wipe off a good portion of it because I really don't need a lot, and glaze is very, very expensive. So I don't want any drips anywhere. I shouldn't have glaze anywhere except for on my vessel. The best way to glaze it is to put my hand inside of it so I can turn it slightly, and then I'm just going to go back and forth glazing the section that I want to glaze. I need to make sure that every little white spot is covered. So sometimes I have to push the brush like this into any little sections. You do not want any white spots remaining. Okay, so you're just looking to do maybe one thick-ish coat, maybe two light coats, and it dries pretty fast. You'll start seeing the difference in the colors as it starts to dry. Okay, so that's how we're going to glaze. You would glaze one whole section, or maybe you're doing everything the same color, but there can be no white. And once I feel like I've made that entire section, then I can wipe off the excess before I close it, and then talk about returning this glaze before I get a new color and keep going. After we glaze the complete outside of our vessel, then we'll talk about doing the inside. Let's say I'm ready to take this glaze back to the cart because I want to use a new color. Since I've covered the bottom variation this color, and I want to try to do a different variation here. First thing I want to do is get as much glaze off as I can back inside the container. Okay, remember glaze is expensive and we don't want to waste. So I've gotten off as much as I possibly think I can from my brush. I'm going to set this in the water for just a second because I'm going to take my glaze lid and I'm going to put it back on. If you have any glaze that's here along the rim, you're going to want to use a paper towel to wipe that up because it'll make it stick. Remember, it's like glass. And then I can take the lid. If I set the lid on there, that is not on. So I have to set the lid on and screw the lid shut. Okay, and really make sure. Remember, when I'm carrying it back to the cart, I'm holding it like this, not by the lid. Okay. What I need to do with my brush before I get that new color and change is I'm just kind of pushing the brush against the bottom of my water container, really making sure that the bristles are clean. And you can tell that I definitely have a lot of glaze still on there, so that's what the paper towel is for. You can use that paper towel to clean off the brush, and then push again on the bottom surface back and forth to make sure that these bristles are very, very clean. Please, please, please do not mix glazes by putting a dirty brush into a new color. Okay, so notice that I rinsed it and then I dried it. If this gets too gross, you dump it out and get clean water. So important that we have a clean, dry brush before I go to my new container. So let's say that I've returned the one to the cart. I'm getting ready to return this glaze to the cart to maybe get a new glaze. I've double checked at my seat that the lid is on tight. Not too tight because I don't want the next person not be able to open it, but tight enough that it's not going to be loose. As I'm carrying it back to the cart, I'm holding it from the sides or in one hand like this. I'm taking it to the cart and I'm looking for its name, Larkspur. Oh, I see it right here, Larkspur. So I know I'm in the right place. Cannot tell you how important it is to me to make sure these get back to the right area. That saves us a lot of time. So now I know that it's in the right spot. I see the little column here of them and I can either move it to the front, or if I just see an open spot there, I can just gently lower it into its spot, and then I can look for and find a new glaze. Remember, when I grab that new glaze, I'm always going to be picking it up from the side, never from the top. Turn the one to the cart. I've gotten my new color. So same thing again, I open it up. Whoa, look at that one, crazy consistency. So before I can apply it to my vessel, I want to mix it up the best that I can. Remember, some of them don't mix as well as others, but this is just getting all of the components to combine together. Remember, I wipe off most of it. Notice how I do not have it all the way up here, just this little bit here. Wipe off most of it because I don't need a whole lot of it. And now I can keep going. Once you've glazed the outside of your vessel, you are welcome to glaze the inside. For those of you that have a very narrow vessel, I would only glaze the little section that your brush can touch. You don't need to go too far down, so just a little bit along the rim, especially if the opening of your vessel is very small. Okay. Another option, if you don't want to add a color, is we have clear glaze. So you can ask Mrs. Snyder about that. Clear glaze just looks really nice and it'll just make it look really nice and shiny. So you could put clear glaze all along the inside of your vessel, or a color. Before you bring your vessel up to Mrs. Snyder, you are going to look to make sure you have not missed any spots. Oh no, I missed a spot. Missed a spot. Missed a spot. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have covered every single spot, and you want to check the bottom. Oh no, I accidentally got glaze on the bottom. If that happens to you, you can take your paper towel, dip it in a little bit of water, wring it out. You don't want it super wet, it's going to make all your glaze run away. And I can just take it and rub it. Make sure that the whole surface of the bottom, whatever's going to touch the shelf of the kiln, is completely cleaned off. All right, key takeaways for today for glazing. Make sure you mix your glaze first thing when you get it. Don't push the brush all the way to the bottom because we don't want a lot of glaze on the brush. Wipe the extra from the brush, any extra that's on there. Remember, the glaze is expensive. We don't want to waste any, and we want to make sure that everyone from all 16 classes has enough glaze. We are going to glaze every nook and cranny. We're going to very carefully go through all of the parts of our vessel and make sure that we didn't miss one single spot. So that includes the inside in the space that we can see if our vessel is very narrow. We are going to make sure that we super clean and dry our brush between colors, because we definitely don't want to put this into a new glaze color that will mix them, and that will be very, very sad for Mrs. Snyder. Some don'ts today. Don't glaze the bottom. That includes the bottom of the lid. So if you made a lid, make sure not to glaze that inside section of the lid that goes inside the vessel. Do not carry the glaze from the lid. Cannot tell you enough how often that has happened and turned into very big, messy accidents. All right, friends, good luck today. Have fun. Happy glazing.